Nothing will stand in our way.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
I will finish what you started.
Who are you? I'm no one.
There are stories about what happened.
It's true. All of it.
The Force. It's calling to you.
My Nerd World.
Just let it in.
It is My Nerd World, and welcome to it. A pop culture and Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Jon Justice, with the latest Star Wars news this week and a smattering of conversation around some other things that I happen to be watching as of late. Thank you so much for checking out this week's episode. As always, if you want to leave me a message, you can do that if you happen to be listening on YouTube. Leave a comment, or you can email me, TalkShowNerd@gmail.com. So, we are a little bit more than a week and a half away from the debut of Ahsoka. I want to talk a little bit about that in just a moment, and my concerns about the success of the upcoming show. Before we get to that, I want to bring you the one sort of major news item, if you will, to come out as it relates to Star Wars. And that is the possible delay of the show, the series that we were expecting later on this year of Skeleton Crew. This is a series that stars Jude Law, takes place within the Mando universe, actually takes place in the events before The Mandalorian, if I'm not mistaken. And it's in the emblem 80s feel of storytelling with a lot of young kids involved in a Star Wars adventure. I'm looking forward to this. I saw the trailer for it that was released from Star Wars Celebration in Europe. Looked like it was shot on a potato, but I did see some of the footage nonetheless, and I'm excited for this show as I am for all Star Wars projects. It was supposed to come out later this year. However, a couple of things dropped this week. On August 9th, Disney held its Q3 earnings call. I'm looking at a report here from Star Wars News Net, where they reviewed the state of the company between April and June, and they announced a few changes going forward, including a $3 a month price hike for the ad-free tier of Disney Plus in the U.S. In the 19-page presentation that was posted online, however, key upcoming Disney Plus and Hulu releases on that list, Skeleton Crew was missing. Now, when the initial date for, I believe it was December of this year, for Skeleton Crew was listed, they did say it was subject to change. In my opinion, and gleaning from the Star Wars Newsnet article and what's happening right now in Hollywood, my guess is that Disney and Lucasfilm, and specifically Disney, have decided to delay Skeleton Crew until next year, and they're going to push out a lot of these live-action streaming shows to take advantage of the fact that there's not going to be any new content being released for a while. We don't yet know if the Acolyte was affected by the writers and actors strike. I believe that Acolyte was all wrapped up, but I haven't heard confirmation on that. We do know, and I reported on the show recently, that Andor was about to film its last few episodes, and when the writer's strike hit, they were unable to do so. Now, we're also hearing, if they do not reach an agreement in Hollywood between the writers and the actors, that potentially the special effects artists could also go on strike. And that would be disastrous for any productions that have finished filming but were still being worked on in post-production. So my guess at this point is that the Skeleton Crew show is going to be pushed out until next year. I think Acolyte will be released, but it probably has also been pushed out because there's going to be a delay in any new content being released in the foreseeable future. So that's my guess of what's going on at this point in time. As it relates to, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking money on a entertainment show and talking about Star Wars because I want to talk about fun stuff. However, the streaming platforms are bleeding money. There's talk and rumors have been brought up again of Apple potentially buying portions of Disney, if not Disney completely. Those rumors have been going around for a while. I question whether or not the federal government would allow that to happen. Disney already has a bit of a monopoly. If Apple were to go and consume them, that would make them an all-powerful corporate monster. Not that I have a problem with corporations, but it is to say that I think the federal government might have something to say with regard to that. What that would mean in terms of Star Wars content, I have absolutely no idea. Won't even speculate at this point in time. If there was ever an entity out there that could purchase Disney, it would be something like Apple. Amazon and Apple, their streaming platforms are losing money just like all the other streaming platforms are losing money. However, they can afford to lose money because they have their other entities that are driving profits for them, namely the Apple products and the what Amazon does apart from its streaming platform. So it could be too. This rumor popped up simply because there's a lack of news coming out of Hollywood because of the strike that's taking place. That being said, getting back to Disney losing money, we're seeing a pretty big hike in terms of the monthly charge for the streaming platform. When the platform was first released, it had a relatively small, I think it was $6.99. I think I pay $10 now, monthly fee attached to it. And the line of thinking at the time was that's the dollar amount on a monthly charge that Disney felt it was worth to have essentially the archives of Disney, because there wasn't a ton of new content apart from The Mandalorian when it dropped. So they figured, okay, this price point is reflective of the consumer purchasing the archive of Disney. Well, they've certainly released quite a few shows since then. I argue about the quality of those shows, but nonetheless, they have released quite a few shows since then. And now they're going to be cracking down on password sharing because they're losing money, and they're going to be raising the price. And this isn't just about, Star Wars quality of shows that I've mentioned, but also the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I've only watched all of the Marvel series one time through, and I only got 2 episodes into Secret Invasion. And I like Marvel shows, and none of us in the family have gone back and watched any more. I tried to continue watching it, and I'll probably eventually finish it, but I just wasn't interested. The Marvel films have not been very good. And for the number of people that have enjoyed the totality of everything that's been released as it relates to Star Wars live-action streaming content, not all of it has been a home run. And there are individuals that had their problems with Mandalorian Season 3, and I've shared my problems with Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi. I've shared my thoughts too many times as it relates to the importance that I believe Star Wars has on the big screen. Disney has intentionally not released any of their live-action streaming shows on Blu-ray or HD physical releases because they want people buying the Disney Plus subscription so they can watch them. My guess is in the next 5-6 months or by the end of the year, we'll start to see the Mandalorian season 1 through 3 on Blu-ray and HD. We'll see Obi-Wan Kenobi. We'll see the Book of Boba Fett released on physical media. And I think they'll probably make quite a bit of money. Now, they may risk, and this is what I'd be interested to see, is the risk versus reward. If they end up releasing those on physical discs, do they run the risk of more people pitching off of the Disney Plus platform? For example, if I knew that I would be getting Ahsoka, say, in another month, would I still want to go and keep subscribing? I don't know. That's a big question for me, because there isn't really much else on the platform apart from the new Disney content that I don't already have physical media of. And physical media is better anyways. The quality on physical media is way better than the streaming. I don't care what anybody says. The compression, when you get down to the streaming, it just doesn't look nearly as good. And especially the action sequences, which I love in my Star Wars, when they end up getting pixelated, I hate that. That's why I usually, if not, I do. I always go and watch the physical releases of the films over the streaming versions. The only streaming versions of the movies that I'll end up watching on occasion is the original trilogy, just because there were some minor changes to the quality and some upgrades to some of the scenes on the streaming that I like to watch. But even just recently, I went and threw in the Empire Strikes Back Blu-ray that I have, and that was released back in 2008, 2009. Maybe it was. It was back in the early 2000s, and it was still a much better quality image than what you get on the streaming platforms. So my guess is we'll start to see physical releases of these live action shows to try to compensate for the fact that a lot of people have pitched off of the Disney platform, and there's a lot of people that really don't care to own or pay a monthly fee just to watch the Star Wars content on the Disney platform, but may want to go and purchase those if they were released on physical media. Now, this all brings me to a bit of speculation and concern that I have with regard to Ahsoka. So let me talk a little bit about that.
Will you have a spark that'll light the fire that'll burn the First Order down?
Now, I've read some recent rumors. And these go beyond rumors. They're more spoilers, leaks from Bespin Bulletin and a few other websites, specifically MakingStarWars.net and Jason Ward.
The hyperdrive is leaking.
I'm not going to share them with you on the show, though. I'm going to pause there, so you don't need to skip off if you're worried about spoilers. I've kept myself somewhat spoiler-free on Ahsoka, apart from seeing this briefly on Bespin Bulletin, looking for content for this week's show, seeing a little bit about what's going to happen, and then pitching off because I don't want to be completely spoiled. I am getting more and more excited for the Ahsoka show is what I'm saying. I have a lot of faith in Dave Filoni. My reluctance was really based off of the other shows that have been released so far. I did really enjoy Mandalorian Season 3, and I've enjoyed all 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. I've recently started a rewatch of Mandalorian Season 1, and the quality on Season 1, I think, still tops the second 2 seasons. Be that as it may, that still is a fantastic live-action streaming show. Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, both of those, to me, suffered from not just the production quality of it, but I think it really came down to the directors of both. I really think that both of those series would have been produced in a much higher quality had they had different showrunners on them than what they had. But be that as it may, we have what we have, and nothing we can do about that. I again tried to put on Obi-Wan Kenobi in the background, and it just that show, just so many portions of it, takes me completely out of it. Now, what I'm seeing about Ahsoka, though, is a completely different ballgame. I've also begun a rewatch of Season 4 of Rebels in anticipation of Ahsoka. And I'm reminded once again just what a fantastic storyteller Dave Filoni is. Obviously, if you are not up to speed on Rebels, you need to go and watch it. It is some of the best Star Wars storytelling. And certainly, in my opinion, the best Star Wars storytelling outside of what George Lucas created. And I love the sequel trilogy, but Rebels is absolutely fantastic. What I'm seeing from the trailers from Ahsoka and what I'm reading now about what's going to potentially happen in Ahsoka, I'm even more excited. To take the Dave Filoni quality of storytelling from Rebels and put it in a live-action format, but still take some of the risks that Dave Filoni took in Rebels. And I'm not even going to bring up which specific things I'm talking about for fear that I'm ruining it for some people. However, what I'm reading that they will be doing in this series has me more excited now than I've ever been heading into Ahsoka. However, that being said, I'm a bit worried. I'm a bit worried because I really do think that I was wrong, and a lot of other people were right, and the Disney fatigue has set in. The Disney Star Wars fatigue has set in. I can't remember who said it, but somebody had made the comment that, that Star Wars serves itself best in 10-year cycles. And while I'm always open to getting more Star Wars because I love Star Wars, I've even felt my own burnout of the series. Now, my disappointment in another science fiction space opera show that I've been watching, which I'll talk about here in a moment, has actually brought me back to Star Wars as of late, and I've been watching Star Wars where I'd taken a break for about a month or so. I'm getting back into Star Wars in a way that I typically am, where I'm usually watching something Star Wars every single weekend, where I hadn't been doing that. I do think the quality of Ahsoka is going to be fantastic, but I wonder how much hype there is behind it, apart from the hardcore fan like you that's listening to this show, or myself that's producing a show like this. Now, there's always going to be time for people to get on board. We're talking about a live-action streaming show where people can go and find it once the word of mouth goes out, right? However, leading into it, I'm just not feeling the same kind of ancillary hype that I typically feel around Star Wars when I hear other people that are sort of in my orbit, in my bubble, talking about it. I'm not hearing anybody talking about their excitement for Ahsoka. So it may be a slow build for the audience to come and find it, but apart from the praise of Andor, and I like Andor, but like I said, Andor got a little boring. Let's just be honest. Andor got a little bit boring. And there was a lot of people that felt the same way, even though the people that loved Andor really loved Andor. It wasn't this universally praised series. I don't know if we can ever get there again because of the world we live in. And once a narrative is put out there, it gets reinforced by social networking, and groupthink takes over, and it's hard to shake people away from that. But when you look at the larger overall praise for Mandalorian, I think that's the best reviewed. Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi had their criticism and their critics. Andor was largely praised, as was The Mandalorian, but it still had its detractors. Ahsoka, if it lives up to the hype again, I think it's going to build its audience. But out of the gate, I'm not expecting Ahsoka to do as well as The Mandalorian. And my expectation at this point is that when the initial numbers come out, that it's not going to be what Disney wants. Which, again, they could be forecasting this already, because they have ways of looking at hype around an upcoming series. And this could be another reason why a Skeleton Crew may have been delayed until next year to give more breathing time between Star Wars content. Another good example is Visions. Like, when Visions came out, while it's not my cup of tea in terms of Star Wars content, I kind of didn't care. And I always care about Star Wars stuff when it comes out. I watched it. I skipped over some of it because it just didn't appeal to me. But it was not I've got to sit down and watch it, which is typically how I treat my Star Wars. We do have confirmation on the runtimes. Cryptic HD quality. Apparently, there's been some press screenings for Ahsoka. I haven't heard anybody commenting on the quality of the shows yet. But Ahsoka Episode 1, because we're going to get both of these episodes coming up on Wednesday the 23rd. So we'll get Episodes 1 and 2 back-to-back. So Episode 1 has a runtime of 54 minutes and 21 seconds, with credits beginning at 51 minutes. So we've got about 51 minutes for Episode 1. And the second episode comes in 12 minutes shorter than its predecessor at 42 minutes and 15 seconds, with the credits picking up at the 38-minute mark. So 51 minutes and 38 minutes for the first two episodes of Ahsoka. And I'll just say it again. As a matter of fact, I'm on Bespin Bulletin right now. I won't even read to you the headline, but if they are planning on doing what they say that they are going to be doing in these leaks, I am genuinely excited for the storytelling and what we are about to get in Ahsoka. And I hope it is successful. I really, really do. I hope that, I hope this encourages the creatives at Lucasfilm to focus on the storytelling more and the production quality of the shows, because that's what makes these stories great. I'm speaking the obvious, but I really do hope it's as good as I expect it to be, and I believe it will be, because I've got a lot of faith and trust in Dave Filoni. As always, what are you? TalkShowNerd at gmail.com. You can also leave a comment up on YouTube if you happen to be watching there.
This is not going to go the way you think.
All right, one non-Star Wars related item that I wanted to talk about today, and that is my utter disappointment so far with Foundation Season 2. Now, you've heard me praise Foundation here on the show. Season 1 was absolutely fantastic. And going into Season 2, I had lofty expectations, and even after the first episode and kind of into the second episode, I was on board. However, this season has taken a very dramatic turn on a number of different fronts, to the point that my wife has even mentioned, Melinda, that if it wasn't for the fact that I was still into watching it, she probably wouldn't be watching it anymore. Now, I've read that the second half of Season 2 really does begin to take off, and you need to stick with it. I hope that's the case, because I can't speak highly enough about Season 1. I loved Season 1. And I'll need to go back and do a rewatch of it, because the chief complaints that I have with Season 2 is that, unfortunately, they've added a lot of, for TV purposes, explicit content and a ton of profanity. And I don't have a problem with profanity for the most part. That being said, it's just profanity for profanity's sake. Just the random dropping in of F-bombs everywhere that I don't remember being in Season 1. On top of some of the more explicit footage and some, for lack of a better word, woke elements in the second season that I can't imagine. As a matter of fact, I know were not in the original Isaac Asimov novels. And that's when I have a problem. I have a problem when it comes to content within shows that most people would go and describe as being woke. It's my problem with woke content. It's there just for the sake of being there, and it's not there for story element purposes to advance the narrative. It's there to check off a box that somebody gave producers on the show saying they needed to check off in order to make it be diverse or whatever. And it's really disappointing because, again, Season 1 is fantastic. The screensaver on my iPad, for what it's worth, I still have an iPad, and I use it at night when I go to bed, when I watch TV before I go to sleep. I changed it to a Foundation desktop because I'm such a fan of the first season and was so excited for Season 2. So we'll wait and see how the rest of the season shakes out. I think we're heading into episode 4 or 5. Last week's episode was completely absent from the episode were the two main characters that I enjoyed the most on the show. That being said, the latter half of this previous episode started to get back into the mythology that they really focused on in Season 1 that's been lacking in this Season 2. So I wanted to put that out there because I've really praised the show, and I was disappointed that I had given it so much credit, and I may have steered some of you to go and watch it. And if you did, and you're going, what in the world are you talking about, John? So if you happen to be going and watching Foundation Season 1 and you're really, really enjoying it, just understand Season 2's got a much different vibe and has a lot of explicit content that was not, as far as I remember, in Season 1. So there's your warning, and my apologies if you maybe perhaps started watching Season 2 and were wondering if my quality in terms of shows had diminished. All this stuff is subjective, right? But still, both Melinda and I were like, why is this show doing this? It certainly does not have to. So, all right. That wraps up the episode for this week. As always, if you want to support My Nerd World, a pop culture and Star Wars podcast, please go and pick yourself up either the ebook, paperback, audiobook, or a hardcover versions of my science fiction adventure series, EMBARK. The stars are within reach. Rival megacorporations D-Corp and Enercon have made interstellar travel possible and space flight available to all humanity. But exploration quickly becomes a matter of survival when pilot Kate Morrow receives a cryptic message from her father, an aerospace engineer who died 1 year earlier. Unaware that a massive industrial accident is about to set off an apocalyptic chain of events, fellow flyer Taft Guardia eagerly agrees to help her investigate. As chaos breaks out amid the global evacuation, the ruthless Sin Argam of D-Corp attempts to exploit the disaster and gain control. Meanwhile, Taft and Katha make a shocking discovery that may hold the key to saving humanity from the tyranny of D-Corp's evil leader. Do not miss this fast-paced and action-packed space opera series. Treat yourself, a family member, or a friend with science fiction written for adults but great for ages 11 Plus. Go and pick up EMBARK Book 1 today. You can get the ebook for Book 1 right now for only 99 cents, and you can get the entire series in ebook, books 1 through 7, the box set, for just $4.99, available on Amazon.com, or you can go to mynerdworld.net and hit the link there on the homepage and pick up your preferred copy. It is always exciting whenever I do the show and I post it and people listen, and then suddenly I go and look and see, oh, people have gone and bought my book. And be sure you leave a review as well. If you've already picked up copies of the book, thank you very much. I would appreciate you going and leaving a review for any of the books you've read. That helps along the way in terms of sales down the road. And one last mention on this: if you're interested in purchasing any of the hardcovers, I have hardcovers here that you can buy directly from me at a discounted price. It is it's drastically cheaper for me to mail them than it is to purchase them and have the added delivery fees, depending on what you have in terms of Amazon Prime. But I can sell them to you a little bit cheaper and have them autographed for free if you buy the EMBARK series from me, whichever book that you want, whether it's the first one, the entire series, in paperback, whichever one you don't have. You can email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. And I usually get those out within a matter of just a few days, so you can buy those directly from me. If you email me, I'll give you the directions on how you can pay for them. It's pretty simple through PayPal, and you don't have to have a PayPal account either. So you can purchase the EMBARK series directly from me, talkshownerd@gmail.com. I hope wherever you are happy, you are healthy, and you are safe. I'll talk to you again next week. Bye.
The Force will be with you, always.
My Nerd World.